Within the data floor, there was a couple interesting things. Primarily, the fight with Jihad. But other than that, the next most interesting thing that we find out, well, not find out, it's more of an exclusive thing to the data floor that will never be relevant ever again, simply because most things in the data floor are just filler to an effect, and that is the sworn enemies. Now, while reading it, I thought this was a really interesting concept, albeit definitely not used to its fullest, but most certainly a sworn enemy, especially given that we don't see a handful of characters sworn enemies throughout the data floor. Primarily, you know, antagonistic characters, but it makes sense as to why we wouldn't see theirs. We're not following their story. And when it comes to the purpose of the sworn enemies, I believe that they probably were initially conceived to give characters development and or hint at their backstories, and that second one they definitely do. For example, we find out a little bit about Doris's past, Kuns' past, and a handful of others, albeit those are basically the only relevant sworn enemies that tell us anything, and Doris's doesn't really do a whole lot of anything. Although the pink-haired girl, we find out about, you know, the girl that sleeps a lot. We find out a little bit about her, albeit it's really like bare bones, like next to nothing. But we do at least get something there from her sworn enemy, which is her uncle, who we find out had this vision of, you know, this path she should take, and apparently she is taking it. Which is interesting because it kind of shows that even though she defeats her sworn enemy, she hasn't developed because of it, because she is like living the life that this person she, you know, views as her enemy has laid out for her in effect. So she's not gone anywhere, which is interesting because this is a character we know basically nothing about and hasn't done a whole lot. So them being someone that is shrouded in mystery and not getting over this thing that the sworn enemy represents kind of makes sense, because we don't know their struggles and anything that's going on, or if they even are struggling, for that matter. But then we have Kuns, who is his sister. Well, technically sister. Is she his sister? Oh god, I can't remember. But they are at odds because Kun killed their was it mother or sister? Fuck, I can't remember. One of the two. But yeah, and then basically I can't remember Kun's sworn enemy's name either, but she exists as effectively as a manifestation of Kun's disdain toward his family and, you know, everything that the Kun family represent. And while he himself doesn't beat his sworn enemy, it's Balm that does. You can see this as it's thanks to Balm that he is able to move past and will be able to, you know, face the, you know, his family and his identity later on with Balm's help. While he might not have been able to do it on his own, albeit he can at least outsmart her, but that's because it's Kun. He wasn't able to defeat her on his own. Maybe he could have, but Balm went ahead and did it anyway. So you can take that how you will. I'm going to take it this way, which is that Kun, while he can't do it himself with Balm's help or just with Balm being around, he will eventually be able to confront the family that he disdains or, you know, has a very certain opinion of. And then we get to Balm. We'll do his now, because he is the one that gets the most development from this. He literally faces his biggest fear, which is loneliness, and quite literally takes in that fear and accepts it as a part of himself to begin to move past it, because he isn't alone anymore, as he simply puts it. And there are this, like, he doesn't need to follow Rachel anymore. He most certainly doesn't want to, at the very least. She is basically not nothing, but he doesn't want anything to do with her anymore because of the events of the data floor. And you could argue that him taking in this you know, manifestation of his loneliness and accepting it and just, you know, realizing he isn't alone is the first step toward not needing Rachel anymore, not following her, not idolizing her, not seeing her as this person that shines anymore. And it's a very nice development. And the one I'm saving till last is Doris's, as her sworn enemy. Well, we also have Rax, but Rax is just a giant sea fish. It doesn't really mean anything, it's just Rax wanting to be strong. so his enemy is something stronger than he is, which is a giant sea fish. There's not much to, get out of there, but we get rack development through him being connected to the Ancient Ones. But then there's Dorsey, whose sworn enemy shows up, basically does nothing, stirs some shit up by, saying to Bam, if you want to be by her side, you need to at least be this strong, albeit I'd argue that Bam is stronger than Dorsey's sworn enemy by the end of the arc, as he's probably stronger than most of the people in the group now. But Dorsey's sworn enemy never actually gets defeated, which kind of goes to show she never develops at all during this arc. If anything, she has been the most stagnant character in Tower of God from her introduction. She's had a bit of development earlier on, but more recently with Season 2, she hasn't changed all too much. And this interaction and encounter with her sworn enemy can be shown as a reflection of that. She doesn't change during the arc, doesn't really confront her sworn enemy, she just carries it around with her and uses it as a tool, in effect. She's not confronting her enemy, she is just taking advantage of them. But at the end of the day, it is still her sworn enemy, it is something she will have to overcome at some point, albeit I doubt that'll ever come to anything because it's, the data flaw, and I've already given my thoughts on the data flaw. You can watch that after this, or if you've already watched it, go see some of the Tower of God content, and tell me what you think about this, just, random stuff I've been saying about these sworn enemies within the data flaw arc. I think there was something with a lot of missed potential. There's a lot further they could have gone with it, and I think they were a really interesting concept, just underutilized, in my opinion. I feel like most people would probably agree with me on that, at least on the underutilized part. But tell me what you think in the comments. Like and hit the notification bell and subscribe on your way there. You can always change your mind later. But with all that said, I've been Animosity, you've been you, and I'm just going to Jesus, what was that? I've been Animosity, you've been you, and I hope to see you all next time for another video. Ta-ta for now, and no, I'm leaving that in.